broadcasting live from the Subaru of Gwinnett studio inside the Gas South Convention Center in Duluth, Georgia. It's time for Gwinnett Business Radio. Gwinnett Business Radio is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts.
Greetings and salutations, loyal listeners of Gwinnett Business Radio. I don't know where you're listening to your loyal podcast platform, but wherever you are, we're glad you're listening to Gwinnett Business Radio here on Business RadioX, broadcasting live from the Subaru of Gwinnett studios inside the beautiful Gas South District Convention Center. We have two great guests from the same company, from Benalytics Consulting Group. We have John Uhas and Larry Small. But before we get to them, it is time for me to introduce my favorite co-host, Harper LaBelle.
I thought I was your only co-host, so now I'm your favorite.
I do other shows.
But I could be your least favorite also, and you just not want to tell me.
So I do a couple podcasts with two of my sons.
Yes?
They
Do you have to tell which of your son is your favorite?
No.
Why not?
Because I love them and I want them to love me back.
Well, good. Well, we're going to love our guest today.
Yes, we are.
And we're going to have a great time. We're going to learn some things that we didn't know about the HR world, and Benalytics is certainly involved with that hook, line, and sinker.
Not knowing about the HR world, like everyone is now raising their hand. Yeah, I'm in that group. I'm glad you have some guests who will help me with that, because that can be a swamp. And so helping us through the swamp is our two guests, John Uhas, the Senior Benefits Consultant, and Larry Small, Elite Group Advisor from Benalytics Consulting Group. Gentlemen, welcome to the studio.
Hello. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so Benalytics and the Consulting Group. Specifically, what does your company do, and how do they help small business owners and large business owners?
Well, we provide full-service benefits management, employee benefits specifically, and all aspects of managing benefit programs. We're a very tight group of high-level consultants, and we help employers in small projects, or we take on the full service of all their benefit programs to help save them money and communicate better with their employees and get better results from their plans, which are very expensive nowadays.
So when you say benefits, you and I were having a brief conversation before we got on the air, John, and I wanted to ask this clarifying question, and either of you can answer this. What exact specific benefits does Benalytics help business owners with? Because when you say benefits, I swear if you ask 20 different business owners, I think you'd get 19 different answers and 75 different things that they bring up as a possible benefit. So what are the specific benefits that Benalytics really helps with?
Sure. It's primarily healthcare is the number one cost driver and the number one thorn in the employer's side for expenses. And then there's dental insurance and life and disability programs and voluntary benefits and a variety of other smaller benefits. We tend not to get into the financial services, the 401ks, things like that. We're very focused in what we do.
Yeah.
Very specialized.
Perfect. So let's start with smaller companies. We get a lot of listeners from a lot of different size companies, but small companies make up a vast majority of the companies here in the United States. Smaller companies need a lot of help with benefit plans because they typically don't have expertise that they have in-house to handle those things. But also larger employers with their own HR and benefit staff, they also need an advisor. So what does the advisor bring to the table? What do you guys do to help specifically in this situation?
Well, it's a good question. There's a lot of large employers, too, with full-service, benefit teams in-house, and you wouldn't think they'd need outside help. But outside of, payroll costs, benefits are one of the biggest expenses a company has, and benefits are getting more complicated. Look at what employers are dealing with. The rising medical costs, specifically now the high-cost drug programs, the high-demand weight loss meds that everyone's clamoring for. And you've got a huge aging workforce with more chronic conditions than ever. And all that stuff attributes to healthcare costs and related expenses, and that's hard on the employers. So some of those companies have great internal teams. Actually, most have a benefit staff and resources in-house on the mid-sized larger groups, but they're often stretched thin. They focus on the day-to-day tasks. They don't have the time or, frankly, the expertise in specific underwriting or data analytics to really dig into what's driving their costs, let alone how to get ahead of it. And don't forget, we're in a competitive job market too, so employers can't continue to just pass on higher costs to employees and expect to keep the best people. Employers need real, lasting strategies that balance cost and value, and that's where a good advisor can make all the difference, helping the HR and benefit teams see around those corners, build the plans that work over time.
John, the benefit team, I imagine that's a certain division. You've got probably the chief financial officer. Someone has to sign off that. Is that the CEO or the president of the company? Who do you normally deal with when you go in to start your consulting? Who are the folks that you want to focus on saying, we have some information that you can use, it's going to be helpful to your business, and hopefully it provides more and costs less?
Yeah, a lot of times we come in at the benefits level. The folks that are doing the day-to-day work, they're the ones that are oftentimes kind of overwhelmed. But generally, you're right. There's always the HR manager, the HR director, and because the medical cost is such a high expense, your CFO and some of the C-suite people on the physical sides of the businesses are involved in making those decisions. But we often get to what is the specific issue that employer is having, and then make some suggestions and recommendations around what we might be able to do to help them.
Do you have any lump sum type of general term that you would have where the HR director would raise their hand and go, I'm a little bit too deep in the water here. I know there's a lot of things that are out there, but I need some help. What is that conversation like with you?
Well, a lot of employers, I like to go back to the saying, employers don't necessarily know what they don't know. And although they do a very good job managing their own programs, when they do get in deep water, they need some help. And that's where, again, we bring senior level consulting and actuarial type people, very, very particular with, or I should say very specialized with Benalytics Benefits Analytics in looking at the numbers, what's driving the costs in an employer's program, and then helping those resources with that level of expertise, usually underwriting, independent underwriting, and double checking what they're doing now to make sure that they're getting the best value.
And is it safe to say that there are some folks that may not want to call for consultation or for help because they're in fear that they might lose their job because someone would say, well, you don't know what you're supposed to know, and so shame on you, we're going to replace you. You're not in that business. You're there to help add to their knowledge, to increase it, and to offer additional information so that they can do their job, enhance it, and make it better for everybody that's involved with the company. Is that a fair statement?
It is. Most large employers do rely on a consulting partner for specific needs, and oftentimes, again, it's with the managing a difficult renewal, looking at the pricing, and really establishing long-term strategies that are going to help them control their benefit costs and bring down the medical spend, and particularly the pharmacy costs, which are driving a lot of their expenses. So they do recognize they need help, and that's what we bring. Our team is from those major national consulting firms. We're just able to bring the same level of service that they'll get from a bigger firm at a much lower cost. And on a brokerage basis, there's no cost involved. So
I think you've touched on something, though, that's important because a lot of times there's these existing relationships, right? And there's this fear that because of that existing relationship, they don't really want to consider another alternative in terms of support in their HR and benefits planning. But it can cost you, right? It can cost you a lot by not being open-minded to another evaluation or extra pair of eyes to just kind of see what could be enhanced. So,
Larry, your title is you're an elite group advisor, and I'm going to break some news to you here on Gwinnett Business Radio. There's no shortage of benefit advisors out there pitching their way. I didn't know if you were aware of that.
But what about elite?
Absolutely.
Well, no. I didn't say elite. I just said
I did. Are there even fewer elite?
Have you ever heard
I'm
of
sure.
an elite
Yeah, I'm
group
sure. Larry,
advisor?
right.
Come on
so,
now. Come on. There's a
so
big difference here.
apart from just having the title elite group advisor, what are some of the other things that makes Benalytics Consulting Group different from your worthy or unworthy competitors? My words, not yours.
I mean, there's the big firm expertise that the group has. The founders come from top international HR benefit consulting firms, and they've built Benalytics to deliver some high-level service in terms of with organizations, and often at no cost. So, again, back to what John said earlier, a lot of times they don't know what they don't know, and they're getting service in most cases from some existing broker, but it's at a level that can be enhanced for the most part. So that's one thing that we bring. Second is it's a tight-knit team, very seasoned pros. Most of the, I call them the super team. Each member has about 30 years plus experience, collectively about 150 years.
So is that all?
adds-
I mean,
That's a
clearly
shame
you're
that
rookies
just a little
at this.
bit, just a little bit. But they're senior level underwriters, consultants, communicators, and administrators. So, and I think also what's really cool is that there's no sales force for the most part. I mean, they've had a very small group of clients that they've serviced, primarily focused on the public sector. And my job really is to try to focus more on the private sector.
And I'm going to jump on something you kind of said before I asked the question and during the question, and the idea of cost. Because I think sometimes it's been lost. One thing I've noticed, this is my opinion, you guys can dispute it all you want, it happens to me all the time. Broker kind of got a bad rap. The term broker, I think, kind of went through a period of time where, well, that's a bad word. But at its core, being a broker, and you've said it about no cost, and you've kind of talked about the relationship and people don't want to damage a relationship or whatever. Use a broker for what they're best at, which is they are out to find the best solution, and there is no additional cost. Whatever the broker is paid is included in the cost of whatever they're bringing you. Am I stating that correctly? Is that a fair assessment? So, and by the way, whatever that cost is that they get out of the internal cost, they can tell you, right? It's not like it's some secret. You guys, is there transparency? I mean, because you're saying no cost. I know you don't work for free, but how much transparency is there in explaining what the cost of the
John could
policies
probably
are?
elaborate a little better on this, but it kind of depends on the need at the time, right? So, serving as a consultant, it could be a fixed fee situation, as a broker, right? Or as an administrator. It really just kind
So
of
you
depends
could
on
do
the
all
need.
of those things.
It's really A to Z.
Yeah.
I think what's very unique about Benalytics is that they can serve those three different areas, right?
Okay.
As an administrator, as
Yeah.
a broker, or as a consultant. Whereas typically if you're working with a broker, they're just kind of limited to that lane.
They're just searching for stuff, but you
right,
guys can
right.
actually give advice. And John, you were talking about actuarial stuff, so
Yeah, I don't want to misspeak on that, but we have very specific lines of sight in the resources that we have. So we have, like I mentioned, kind of the mathematician backgrounds, data analytics. We also have some licensed consultants. It takes another level of expertise to actually be a consultant, and a lot of our peers may kind of tout that, but they're not actually in that category. We're also third-party administrators licensed, so we can help employers, big employers and small employers, administer their plans better. And Larry was right. There's companies that, again, have the option to have a broker, and it does not impact their costs. Those expenses for managing the programs are funded by the insurance providers, or a lot of employers prefer just to work on a fee-for-service basis, a defined price. They know what it is, and that's what they're charged. So we do all of those, and we can generally, because we are underwriters by background, we can help them really reduce the costs most of the time for what they're paying now, and oftentimes significantly.
John, what if we mentioned a small business? What if you're a little bit larger or looking to expand? Are there some rules and regulations that any employer needs to know regarding Georgia versus, let's say, we sell in Alabama or Tennessee, or if you want to expand into Florida? Are there market rules and regulations that need to be known that you would be able to pounce on and say, look, we're well aware of all these different problems that occur from borders, and different states have rules and regulations. That's why we're here to help a Georgia-based company?
Yes. Actually, a lot of our clients are national firms, so they have locations all over the country. We're licensed in probably half the states in the country, and if there's some that we aren't and need to, we will get there. But we service some very large programs, some with several million employees, which is an extreme. But the smaller groups, again, we're fine with working in different states. We're well aware of all the regulations. We have internal resources that help companies manage the compliance needs that they have. So there's a lot of regulations that the employers themselves must manage each year, and we help with that, and we provide a variety of resources in that area.
John, what's an initial conversation like? If a business is a little nervous about, their benefit package and what they offer, and they want to speak to someone at Benalytics, what does that initial conversation include?
That's the best approach. We have a lot of companies that, like I think Larry mentioned, they're maybe a little hesitant to kick the tires because they have an existing relationship. They've been doing what they've doing for years. Everything's running fine. A lot of times, a carrier, an insurance company will give them what we call a no-change renewal from year to year, and they're happy. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're not getting overcharged. So, if they'll engage us with a conversation, we can shed some light on this, kind of share some insider secrets as to how these insurance companies work, because we have folks on staff that are from those insurance companies, and again, independent underwriters, which are key to have. But this helps the employers with kind of peeling back the onion and looking at what they're not seeing. So we try to get them in an initial conversation, just no cost, no obligation, just to learn about where their pain points are and bring some things to the table that maybe they haven't thought about.
We're speaking with John Uhas, Senior Benefits Consultant, and Larry Small, Elite Group Advisor, both from Benalytics Consulting Group. And I just wanted to ask, and either of you or both of you can answer this question, what are the biggest benefits mistakes that companies are making? You can focus on the small. I would imagine the larger the company, the more their staff, the more they're checking the box of compliance stuff and stuff they absolutely have to have. But what are either mistake or what benefits are businesses not taking advantage of enough?
Again, the larger the company, the more they look at their programs, because the higher the costs. But I would again say, for companies that have kind of stayed with the status quo, that's a problem. You need to look. There's a lot of new point solutions that are coming to market. These are things that help companies enhance wellness programs and disease management initiatives. And looking at the company's data. A lot of times companies do not know how to do a deep dive into their claims information and other metrics that they have available that helps identify the cost drivers. And that's what we do. So the biggest thing companies can do is really let us help them peel back the onion, look in there and find out what is specifically driving their costs, and then make recommendations that would address their specific problems. Now, you mentioned products too. Again, I focus on the medical a lot because that's the high cost one, but other programs like life and disability programs or voluntary benefits, there's another example where these types of programs usually are all employee paid, and therefore the employer doesn't focus on them very much because it's not a direct budget impact to them. However, there's oftentimes plans that are outdated, need to be updated. They're lost in the latest benefits, or the employees are getting charged too much. So a lot of things we can look at that aren't just medical focused.
And just want to piggyback off that, when you allow us an opportunity to peel back the onion, one success story is that one client reduced their cost by $42 million while enhancing their benefits package. So
Hold on. $42
Is that all?
million.
Yeah, you couldn't do more than that?
$1 million.
You couldn't do more than that?
Yeah.
So they're a little open-minded.
Yeah.
Allowed us an opportunity to
And
evaluate.
and they sent you a nice Hallmark card
Yeah.
that said, thank you for, and so that's obviously
And a pressure ball with their logo on it, right? To
stress ball.
squeeze. Yes.
a water
That's what we
bottle.
gotta return.
And obviously that's a big number, right? And that's a great example. Larry, I was going to ask you, you're the elite group advisor, so I'm going to ask you to go talk a little bit of the eliteness that you bring, because 42 million is a huge number. But do you have a number or do you have a story and maybe it's local or maybe it's in the Southeast region or maybe not, but a small business owner that you were able to kind of work with and get them to something where they're like, I didn't know I could do this for my employees?
John can kind of speak more on that, but let me just say this. Again, Benalytics has a 20-year, in fact, we're celebrating 20 years of being in business, and a focus has been more on the public sector. So my job is, again, to put a little bit more focus on the private sector. And I'm using those success stories to say, hey, we have this super team that has a skill set, and they're unknown. They're kind of under the radar, and what a wonderful opportunity to kind of serve more of the private sector and share more of those success stories and help in that regard. So
yeah, let me address that question specifically, because we the folks that are on our team are from consulting houses, and they have worked on private sector groups, large and small, of all sizes, as well as the folks we have from insurance companies. So while we tend to do work in the public sector, because again, our largest client is the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, which handles all the federal workers nationwide, and there's millions of them. So we've worked on benchmarking benefit programs for them, pharmacy cost analysis. We've done specific fertility studies for their programs. We've done a lot of work for groups like that, but our bread and butter is also the smaller groups. So we work with the small employers. We help them oftentimes enhance their wellness programs, do things to get a workforce more healthy, because a lot of them are challenged in that area. A lot of them have older workforces, older people on their teams. So we identify, again, those cost drivers, as I keep going back to, and help them fix those small programs. So a lot of our success stories has been with smaller groups, both public and private sector. We do a lot of work with municipalities in the area, and we're the consultants and broker for the state of Georgia, the flexible benefit program for all the state workers. So again, we don't work with a large number of clients. We keep it very small purposely. That makes sure our best resources are available for each client where and when that's needed. And that's important because a lot of our peers are stretched pretty thin with a basket load of clients, and they're all trying to juggle it. And a lot of times you just don't get the personalized, customized approach. You get off-the-shelf stuff, and that doesn't work in today's complex, medical environment particularly.
Well, medical changes seem to happen every day, not just with pricing, but the plans and the policies. Are there any other technological changes? I would imagine that robots are soon going to be asking for benefits, and they're going to go on strike unless you give them an oil change, and their benefit package needs to include, what would that be? New batteries, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But are there any other?
And 3 weeks vacation.
Absolutely. But are there any things down the pike that you're seeing that are beginning to trend into play? I've noticed, like, for example, pensions aren't what they used to be. That's not as much of an offering as it used to be. So you'd want to double up on your 401k or save on your own. There are some different ways of doing it. Nobody has the exact answer, but there are lots of right ones out there, and your job is to help find those. Are there any specifics coming up down the pike, so to speak, that you help prepare people for?
Well, I think the world's embracing AI changes, so undoubtedly we'll get more and more into that. And it started with online enrollment platforms and employee self-service to manage their own benefits, and now the systems will be talking to the employees. So there'll be good things that'll come from this, but you still got to get down to the basic block and tackles of negotiating price and stuff with the insurance providers to get a fair deal. And robotics isn't at the point yet that can kind of do that on their own. So I think there'll be some good things, in years down the road. But right now, in the immediate future, you need a firm that knows what they're doing, that has the resources to dig in and negotiate hard, toe-to-toe with the insurance companies, and that's what we do.
If only there were a firm out there that had over 100 years of experience and lots of senior level knowledge and great knowledge base. If only there was someone that could help us with that. So if you're a business owner and maybe you have an existing advisor broker relationship, maybe you have an internal staff or you don't, but you just want to kind of have HR kick the tires and talk to Benalytics without necessarily, abandoning your existing relationship, but just to see what's out there. How do people get in touch with you guys? How do they reach out? What's the best way to reach out to Benalytics?
Yeah, again, the conversation is maybe the step number one. It's free. We're happy to have it, and we'll open up, some eyes on conversations with folks. But get a hold of Charles Atkinson, our founder and managing principal. He's been with the company all along. He founded the company, and he's one of the senior consultants that's from one of the big national firms, as well as most of our team is as well. But we'll engage with you on that. And it may be simply trying us out on a small project, something that doesn't conflict with your current advisor, or if you have an in-house team, again, a project that might help them on something that they're doing that they're challenged with. Just start small. Again, let us try us out. Run us around the block.
And again, the name is Benalytics. It represents benefits plus analytics. The phone number is 770-420-0525. Or, of course, you can go to Benalytics.com.
And Benalytics is spelled Benalytics.com.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. John Uhas, Senior Business Benefits Consultant, and Larry Small, Elite Group Advisor from Benalytics Consulting Group. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Harper, I love talking about benefits, don't you?
There's nothing like it.
That's right.
Especially when you have elite, super, and I would say superior. I'm going to say that
Well,
that's
I
a
know.
part of it as well.
He's going to add that to his business card.
Yes, you
later.
are. Well, if you're looking for a new or previously enjoyed vehicle that's out there, go to 2950 Satellite Boulevard in Duluth. It's just 2 blocks north of the Gwinnett Place Mall. It's Subaru of Gwinnett. And love is what makes a Subaru a Subaru. You can enjoy the big savings, the hassle-free experience at Subaru of Gwinnett, where people sell cars. You can visit at SubaruofGwinnett.com, join their family today, or you can come on in and see the difference.
Thank you for reading that, Harper, and thank you for Subaru of Gwinnett being such a loyal sponsor of Gwinnett Business Radio. And thanks for Mike. He's coming out of his cubicle. That means it's time to go.
Yes, it does.
So for Dan,
That's
and
an
for
international
Harper,
symbol
and for our
right
guest,
there.
he's looking at his watch.
He's a superior and elite manager.
Yes, he is, and his arms are not crossed. So for Mike, who hates when we bring him up, and for Dan, and for Harper, this is Stephen. We will catch you next time on Gwinnett Business Radio.